Episode number 101. Athos had passed through all the examinations we have seen Bonacieux undergo. We were present at the scene, in which the two captives were confronted with each other. Athos, who had till that time said nothing for fear that D'Artagnan, interrupted in his turn, should not have the time necessary, from this moment declared that his name was Athos, and not D'Artagnan. He added that he did not know either him or Mimi. Bonacieux, that he had never spoken to the one or the other, that he had come, at about 10 o'clock in the evening, to pay a visit to his friend D'Artagnan, but that till that I had been at the Trevilles, where he had dined. 20 witnesses, added he, could attest the fact, and he named several distinguished gentlemen, and among them was le Duc de la Trémouille. The second commissary was as much bewildered as the first had been by the simple and firm declaration of the musketeer, upon whom he was anxious to take the revenge which men of the robe like at all times to gain over men of the sword, but the name of de Tréville, and that of de la Trémouille, commanded a little reflection. Athos was then sent to the cardinal, but unfortunately the cardinal was at the Louvre with the king. It was precisely at this moment that de Tréville, on leaving the residence of the lieutenant criminal and the governor of Fort-l'Évêque without being able to find Athos, arrived at the palace. As captain of the musketeers, de Tréville had the right of entry at all times. It is well known how violent the king's prejudices were against the queen, and how carefully these prejudices were kept up by the cardinal, who in affairs of intrigue mistrusted women infinitely more than men. One of the grand causes of this prejudice was the friendship of Anne of Austria for Mimi de Chevreuse. These two women gave him more uneasiness than the war with Spain, the quarrel with England, or the embarrassment of the finances. In his eyes, and to his conviction, Mimi de Chevreuse not only served the queen in a political intrigues, but, what tormented him still more, in her amorous intrigues. At the first words the cardinal spoke of Mimi de Chevreuse, who, though exiled to Tours, and believed to be in that city, had come to Paris, remained there 5 days, and outwitted the police. The king flew into a furious passion. Capricious and unfaithful, the king wished to be called Louis the Just, and Louis the Chaste. Posterity will find a difficulty in understanding this character, which history explains only by facts, and never by reason. But when the cardinal added that not only Mimi de Chevreuse had been in Paris, but still further, that the queen had renewed with one of those mysterious correspondences, which at that time was named a cabal, when he affirmed that he, the cardinal, was about to unravel the most closely twisted thread of this intrigue, that at the moment of arresting in the very act, with all the proofs about her, the queen's emissary to the exiled duchess, a musketeer had dared to interrupt the course of justice violently, by falling sword in hand upon the honest men of the law, charged with investigating impartially the whole affair in order to place it before the eyes of the king. Louis Roman XIII could not contain himself, and he made a step towards the queen's apartment with that pale and mute indignation which, when it broke out, led this prince to the commission of the most pitiless cruelty. And yet, in all this, the cardinal had not yet said a word about the Duke of Buckingham.